Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. And tonight is kind of a spooky episode. Tonight we're going to be talking about Colorado cryptids, ghost stories, and strange tales of Colorado. Or at least some of Colorado. We're not going to talk about them all.
No, there's no time.
We don't have that kind of time, and we don't have that kind of energy, and I don't really want to put forth that much effort into this. I mean, okay, I like spooky stuff, okay, but...
Let's just say the Wild West had a lot of activity, so there's a lot of theoretical hauntings that are still out there.
There's a lot in Colorado.
A lot.
Yes. We have, with as many people that came into Colorado during the gold rush and during that time, and everybody bringing in their legends and their tales, their culture.
Yes.
To all of this, there's a lot to talk about, but we're not going to talk about it all. Mm-hmm. And I primarily want to focus on stuff more closer to home.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Or at least, more closer to home as far as what I'm going to talk about, because we have a really, really cool set of ghost stories that's essentially just down the block.
Oh yes.
So anyway, just down the block. Riverdale Road is going to be fun. Anyway, so what we got? I'm all discombobulated tonight. We're going to be talking about a ton of stuff about the Colorado legends, ghost stories, cryptids. Some of it has some very true origins. Mm-hmm. Some of it has some really true facts behind it. 90% of what you guys are going to hear tonight is a bunch of fantasy. Okay. Based on real occurrences.
And people really drunk.
Well, part of that, yes.
That has some basis in where these stories came from.
Right. And later on with some of the other stories that happen here, people really high.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Rocky Mountain High. Mm. Anyway, this is just a small portion of what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I think, honestly, it would be best if we would lead it off with you, Kris.
Really?
Yes.
With which one?
Well, how about Molly Brown?
Okay.
The Molly Brown house and Buffalo Bill's grave, and a little bit about the Stanley too. Stanley Hotel.
Okay. All at once, huh?
I think it's the best option.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
So.
All right. I have to pull up notes for Molly Brown. So, Molly Brown, in case you haven't heard the name, is also the unsinkable Molly Brown. She was one of the survivors of the Titanic. So after that experience, she settled in Colorado in the Denver area. So lots of stories of hauntings at the Molly Brown house. Some people say it Molly Brown herself, but most, including the curators of the museum that is the Molly Brown house these days, don't really talk about her. They talk about her nephew, Frank, who died in the house of scarlet fever at the age of 10, as well as Molly Brown's mother, Joanna, who also died there. And the staff see that they say a woman, and they like to think that it's her watching over them and keeping them safe. Visitors often talk about smelling cigar smoke in a certain room. I think it's the parlor room of the house, and seeing something out of the corner of their eye in a corner where the smoke is coming from. And The other fun one is often the curators are asked what their cat's name is that is running around in the house, and they have to say, there isn't a cat that lives here running around the house. So Molly Brown has a cat haunting the place. And other things more typical of hauntings of houses are the lights flickering on and off. They change a light bulb and it still flickers, or some light that they think has been dead for a while suddenly springs back to life. So they blame the ghosts for that. So that's really all I know about the Molly Brown house. I have yet to visit there on a regular tour or a haunted tour. They do both. So it is something that I would love to do, is a haunted tour of Denver. In fact,
I have a connection for one.
Oh,
so,
good.
whenever we want to do it, I can get us in for one.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Not this month. They're actually sold out.
I'm
but
sure they are.
I've got a good connection for that.
Okay. That would be a fun thing to do.
There you go.
So Stanley Hotel is when I was reading up on it, but also I've been on their haunted tour. Kat and I went and did that once, and it's a ton of fun if you're into this kind of thing. Of course, it is the inspiration of The Shining, written by Stephen King. It is also claimed to be the Disneyland for ghosts, because there are so many ghosts there. Just to name a few, so room 217, and Chuck and I were just in there yesterday, and you can buy shot glasses with the number 217 on it. So it's the room, apparently. But King was staying there. He and his wife were staying there for a getaway. They were living in Boulder at the time and had come up as a getaway, just the two of them. And he was in Boulder riding the stand when they went up, and they stayed in room 217. I doubt if they knew it was as haunted as it claims to be. But he had a nightmare there. And so he couldn't get back to sleep after he woke up from the nightmare. And as he sat looking out the window into the night, the outline of the story of The Shining was born. So it definitely was his inspiration. So room 217, and the reason it's haunted is that after a power outage, Stanley had gas lighting installed in the hotel, and there was a small gas leak in room 217. So when a chambermaid came in to clean, she flicked on the light, and kaplow.
Boom.
She lived through it, but was burned and thrown across the hall and all of that. But guests now say that the room, like that she haunts there anyway, even though she survived, and that the room gets straightened up in the middle of the night. They'll wake up to find things all folded that weren't folded the night before, or that the bed they've been tucked into the bed while they're still in it, like the bed's been made over them. So that's room 217. There's also room 407, where the ghost isn't quite so friendly and, doing good things. So many women have complained that there's of inappropriate touching by a mysterious man. And a couple that had stayed there, the husband had left his wedding ring on the bathroom counter, and mysteriously, he watched it get pushed into the sink and go down the drain. And in room 428, many have claimed to see a cowboy standing there watching over them. So those are the rooms. And then in the haunted tour that we did, we went into the opera house, and that is where all of the young children ghosts like to play. So they love to do antics with the cast of anything that's being performed there, and people in the audience can sense it. And in fact, in the haunted tour, what they did is that they like to play because they're kids, right? And so we had those little dum-dum suckers.
Yeah.
And you put one and you rest the sucker part on your hand so that the stick is sticking up, and you just be calm and sit there with it, and the kids will come along and knock it off. And they do. It happened. It happened to some of us, not everybody, but yeah. So that was kind of fun to try. And I tried that in other places in the house as we went through the tour, and it didn't happen anywhere else. It was just the kids that did that, which proves that it's not my hand, or the sucker just kind of falling off or whatever. So that was kind of a cool thing. And then we went to another room in the house that was not a place like a hotel room where you stay, but one of the ancillary rooms, like for storage or maybe a small conference or something. And supposedly there's a teenager that likes to hang out there. And so they played 70s rock music to try and get her to get active. I didn't sense it, but others in the room did. And then there's a series of underground tunnels. And they actually, one source called it a cave, and I can see why, because it literally is carved out of the granite up there. And they use these underground tunnels to access the different buildings on the property, because in the dead of winter, you don't want to be trudging outside in all the snow. And so they have these underground tunnels. It's also where there's a lot of storage and food storage. And it is said that there's a pastry chef that haunts down there and is always mucking about with the pastry making ingredients. So
it could be worse, right? If you're
I know
haunt.
none of these sound very.
No, but like a chef haunting, it would be,
Yeah, right.
There could be worse things.
Could be worse things. I mean, too bad he can't actually right? You come down in the morning and there's a fresh baked cake. That would be fabulous. And then there's also a pet cemetery on the property. And Cassie, a golden retriever, apparently still delivers the newspaper and will scratch on the door.
Oh.
So a lot of these have pets.
Animal huntings.
Animal huntings. Yeah. And I have to say personally, I have had that here in our own home. That one of our cats who has passed, every once in a while I'll feel her. And I think it's one of our current cats, and the door is closed and they're not in the room. So we'll see.
Hi, Winifred.
Yeah, but
Hi, Winifred.
Penny. I see Penny because it's
Penny.
The behaviors that Penny would do.
Oh.
So, do you want me to talk about Buffalo Bills, or did you want to jump in with another?
No, go on with Buffalo Bill.
Okay.
I mean, you got the floor. Let's go.
Buffalo Bills is more of a personal story, although a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about when I researched it are available, have been discussed in other venues. But I worked there for a couple of summers, and one of those summers, I actually stayed past the summer, so I was there alone. Or moved in before everybody else did. So like I moved in the spring before everybody else came in. And I can't say I was alone. The proprietors that worked there were there, but they had their own apartment that was off one of the little wings of the gift shop. So when they went into their apartment, I was alone for all intents in the space. And when I first went in by myself alone, yeah, you definitely get a sense that the place is haunted. But I made an effort to make friends. Like I didn't get a sense that it was bad, it just was. And I felt like I was being protected. But some of the stories that my coworkers who'd been there had talked about is like watching a coffee pot fly around the corner and sit down on the counter. Okay. My experience was that I had stacked a bunch of glassware. We were, of course, right before summer and stocking the place. And I came down the next morning. Again, like I said, I'm alone. The proprietors are in their apartment. They don't come out until it's close to opening. And the glassware was in the same pattern that I had it, because I was alternating styles, laying on the floor in exactly that pattern. So that was bizarre. And another time, I'm early morning setting up the kitchen and setting up the hot, what do you call those? The steam tables. Mm-hmm. And I could see out of the corner of my eye that someone was standing at the front door, and it looked just like one of the proprietors. And so I thought it was him needing to come in, that he'd come around the backside and had just needed me to let him in because the front door wasn't open yet. And so I turned to go open the door, and no one was there. And so I thought, oh, well, he must have figured it out and gone back over. And so I went back to my work, and then he was there again. And I'm like, come on, Ivan. And I look over, and he was gone. And then the real person came in behind me and, of course, scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, were you just outside? No, I wasn't outside. You must have seen Roos. Roos is the name of the ghost who hangs out there and causes some of these antics. The other thing I'll say is that because of the haunting there, and there's other stories of different, like a woman who had fallen to her death. I didn't hear that at all when I worked up there. But the place was built by Buffalo Bill's son, and it was a way station for those who were on their way to the gold rush. And so you can imagine there's quite a bit of rambunctious activity that must have happened there. Not surprising the place is haunted. Plus, it's a gravesite. I don't think Buffalo Bill himself haunts there, but others have said that. But those weren't the stories from the people who had been there a long time when I worked up there. But because it's haunted, you always have that, when someone walks into the room and you get that sense that
presence
that someone has walked in. You always had that. And so you just dismissed it because it was just how you felt all the time. So when a living, breathing person walked into the room, jump scare, all of us would do it to each other all the time, because unless you were making noise, if you just kind of walked around a corner and said hello, it would really startle us. So those were my experiences at Buffalo Bill's living there. And like I said, I felt like they made me feel safe living there. And when I left is when the place got broken into. So while I was there, they protected me.
Interesting. So it was after you left
that the place got broken into. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah. So I guess the spirits that be just turned around and thought, it's like, well, okay, she's gone. So everybody go.
Yeah. Bye-bye. No.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. I can't vouch for that, but it was, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, not negative at all, but definitely there. But fortunately, I have never had a negative experience with this sort of paranormal activity.
Thank goodness, because 9 times out of 10, the stories that you hear about places like that is somebody did something bad and is going to take it out on the living.
Exactly.
No,
these were folks that just hadn't quite figured out how to transition all the way through yet, or decided that they like to come and just continue to play. And weren't trying to be mean. Just were existing.
Okay. All right. So I guess that leads us now to Alyce.
Yeah.
You got stuff.
Well, a little bit.
Stuff.
My time at the Capitol being a tour guide, we were always asked about how, is the building haunted? And the official party line is no.
Of course.
So it is not haunted. However, there are a couple of stories that tie into it. Tunnels is going to be a running theme with this one, because I think in another episode we talked about how there are tunnels running underneath the Capitol to connect the buildings because nobody wanted their fancy clothes mucked up in the cold, snowy weather. But the two big stories that are out there, and there are two, and one of them has a man associated with it, and one of them has a female apparition associated with it, but the manifestation is the same. So it depends on the story that you get. The big one, though, is that when we were at Territory, there were a couple of brothers who were upset with all the squatters that were coming in, and they mass murdered like 200 people.
Oh my gosh.
So there was a bounty put on them, and then there was a famous bounty hunter that got them and beheaded them.
Wow.
And he brought they were the Espinosa brothers, and their heads were brought to Governor Evans, who was our territorial governor at the time. He brought them to the Capitol and plopped them on his desk.
Ew.
And said, I want the bounty. And Governor Evans was like, maybe. And so the bounty hunter guy was like, fine, I'll leave the heads. And then he just left these disembodied heads in the Capitol. And Governor Evans was like, okay, let's put him in the state treasurer's office. So they lived in the state treasurer's office for a hot minute. And then after a while, they're like, we got to get rid of these heads. So they actually incinerated the heads in the furnace in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
Because the way that the building was heated was convection heating. There were holes in the floor, and then there are these sections that go up, and the convection heating would pull the heat up from the furnaces on the floor. They actually put hot coals in these carts and roll the carts under the holes, and the heat would rise. And then the way the air moves through the building, and it still does move this way, it heats the whole building that way. So these heads were burnt in the furnace. And the legend is, and the mythology around it is that you hear horse hooves running the halls of the building, and they think it's the brothers looking for their heads. So at night you can hear horses running around the Capitol. The floors are marble, so you know it's a distinct sound. It's not like, you know, it's not clippity cloppity on concrete. It's a very distinct sound. So that's one of the big legends. So yes, there were disembodied heads in the Capitol. True.
Wow.
Yes, there were disembodied heads burnt in the furnace in the Capitol. True. So that's how it came about. But it was Governor Evans who was like, yeah, maybe not.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, that's that one. And then the second mythology around it is it's either the Victorian lady or the lady in white. She's an apparition that happens often. This one's also associated sometimes with the gentleman. So they think it's the lady. There was a lady who passed away inside the Capitol. There's another story to that. In kindness to folks who watch our episodes, I don't want to trigger anything, but she was found dead in the Capitol. And she continues to be present in the place by walking up the main stairs. She'll be present in the Senate chambers. She's actually very prominent in the Senate chambers. She's seen a lot there, standing in the corners of places. But the big one, and I'm not a believer in ghosts. I'm not one to do that. But as a tour guide, I was able to go in the tunnels, and with the state patrol, we were going through there, and the tunnels now house all of the heating systems. So they are hot. They are blazes hot. But every once in a while you can get to a place where it is ice cold. Oh. And it's never the same place. So as you're walking the tunnels, she'll be present, or sometimes this is also attributed to a male presence as well. But it gets freezing cold, and it envelops you, wraps around you, and then passes you. And so we were there, and I at the time was the only one who felt it. But I can't hide anything on my face. And so my face changed, and I was like, what? And I'm like, well, I felt something. And they're like, what? And I'm like, did you get cold? And they're like, no. And they're like, all blazes hot. And I'm like, okay. So it was just me.
Well,
me.
It's
like
very
a cat.
Common indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are the two big ones that are associated with the Capitol being haunted. There are other folks, there are other apparitions that come about. A lot of times that staff that is there at night, or the state patrol that is there at night, will talk about the ghosts being, opening doors and shutting doors, and lights flickering. They'll talk about odd sounds, things falling off desks. The old state Supreme Court chambers is also a place where they like to apparate and be present. The chandelier, they're big chandeliers that are in each of the three big rooms, and that one will sway. So that one's weird because they're not designed to sway. They're designed to go up and down on a pulley system, but not back and forth. And back and forth is kind of dangerous. So that's a little bit of I'm like, oh, okay. But being the guide there, you do hear the stories and people ask about them, but those are the two big ones about the Capitol. So
cool.
Right on.
There you go. There's a little of the mythology of the Capitol building.
And see, that's the reason for this episode, is the fun little stories that a lot of people don't get to hear. First off, and some of the background to a lot of these stories is, like I said in the beginning, there's some truth
Well, it's rooted in
to
truth.
the legend.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and it all begins with a real story.
There's a real there. Yeah.
It all begins with a real story. Let's see. What do I got next? Oh, yeah, I guess it's my turn now.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to talk about a portion of, well, I can't even call it zoology. It's cryptology or cryptozoology or something like that. I can't remember the exact word. I'll put the word down here. We're going to talk about cryptids. And what I mean by cryptids is all the fanciful, supernatural, and somewhat attributed, not necessarily supernatural creatures.
Like the guy on your shirt.
Like the guy on my shirt. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but apparently Sasquatch is now very popular in Colorado. Sasquatch wasn't necessarily popular in Colorado for the longest while, but over the last 30, 40 years, he's become very popular.
So isn't he Pacific Northwest
That's-
/ European?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
he's here on a
Okay.
vacation.
Maybe.
Welcome to Colorado.
Well, okay, but he goes all
Everybody
through.
wants to move here.
He goes all through the country. Okay, you got Sasquatch up in Washington and Oregon. Okay, and Northern California. You've got Bigfoot here through Wyoming and Colorado. You got the skunk ape over in Oklahoma and Florida. Okay.
What's in the Appalachians?
I don't know.
People.
Mothman. I don't know.
I've just heard that I've
Yeah,
never been there, but the forest is so dense
There-
that I wouldn't be surprised.
There are several cryptids across the country, and most of them are very similar to a very large,
Human-like structure.
well, I can't say human, a large hominid. There you go. Thank you. Yes, it's a large hominid, anywhere from 8 to 12 feet tall. Okay. There is
Chewbacca.
zoologically, actually, I don't believe that there's any real basis for any of this. I mean, I don't even think that there is a creature that exists in Europe or the Americas that would even come close to being something that could be this. So that's something we'll get into later when I actually start talking about Sasquatch. And don't mess with Sasquatch.
Just don't.
Jack
Miss
Links.
Slim Jim.
Yeah, Jack Links. Jack Links. Anyway,
He likes the beef jerky.
we're gonna get in trouble for that already. We're getting in trouble for that already. You know, it's yeah. Here we
You
go.
know what? If it's on TV, it's true.
There we go.
That's right.
No, it's on the internet.
It's
true.
both. Like
Yeah.
we're Xers, man. It was on TV. It's true.
Um,
Moves to the internet.
What was the name? Oh, the first one, the TV show from the 70s, In Search Of,
Mm-hmm.
narrated by Leonard Nimoy. And then after that was
Harry and the Hendersons.
What? No, we're talking about regular TV, not a movie.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, I know. Alice don't know. Anyway, it was Ripley's Believe It or Not was there for a while.
Yeah.
Can't remember. There were several TV shows that had these little essentially it was what YouTube is now, but we didn't have YouTube.
Right.
So it was people sending in these videos. And yeah. Anyway, the cryptids that are in Colorado, and this is a very, very short list. We're going to start with that's something that's down in the Four Corners area and the Navajo regions of Colorado, and it's the legend of the Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers essentially are these creatures, or these are humans that have become these creatures because they were using dark magic and practicing dark magic and evil things and become twisted from the dark magic, and they are now shapeshifters, and they end up doing bad things to people. And that's about as much as I know about skinwalkers, other than the fact of you don't mess with skinwalkers. You just don't do it.
What do they look like?
See, that's the thing.
I see.
They're shapeshifters, so
They take on whatever they want.
that's right. And 9 times out of 10, they usually take on a coyote form or wolf form.
Okay.
Sometimes a fox. But most of the time, they're human. So, no, I could be a skinwalker, and you wouldn't know.
I see.
So, Yeah, that's the whole point of that. Anyway, we're going to move on from skinwalkers. We are going to now move on to the next one, which has been brought to us from our friends south of the border. And it was a legend that started down in Mexico, and came all the way up here, because we were a portion of Mexico for a while. And this legend began with the indigenous people in Mexico and became part of the culture down there. And that's the chupacabra. The chupacabra is essentially a vampire rodent. Well, not really a rodent. It's
rabbit.
Kind of.
Scary killer rabbit.
Yeah, huge fangs. Look at the bones.
It's a different culture, but similar.
Right.
Well, they have kind of a rabbit-esque face.
They do. They do.
But not the big ears per se, but they're just kind of that.
But I've seen them with the big ears, but they've been folded back.
Yeah.
You know, but they are vampire because they primarily feed on blood.
Yeah.
So, or that's the legend. The reason the chupacabra was very, very popular is, do you remember back in about the mid to late 70s, all the stories of the cattle mutilations in Colorado?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's where In Search Of comes into play.
Right. Okay.
Because it was, the name of the TV show, That's Incredible.
Oh.
You remember it?
Yes, I do, but I don't remember it being.
Oh, yeah. Well, they would come up with fun stuff
People
like this.
Lifting 1,000 pounds.
And the squirrel riding the water skis and, that type of thing. But
I don't remember
sometimes
scary things.
Every Halloween.
Yeah, that's true.
Every Halloween,
But yeah, that's incredible.
Anyway.
Solid gold.
Wow.
Afterwards.
Yeah. Wow. Oh,
Let's get back on track.
Edit here. Okay.
With the solid gold dancers. Seriously.
Okay. Chupacabra. Demon bunny. That's essentially.
Well, and it was the legend that to explain how, livestock could have been killed, or the disappearance of, they were attributed with a lot of things.
Right.
And were unexplainable as Chupacabra did it.
Exactly. And a lot of that wasn't acceptable as an explanation. So the other explanation was aliens.
Okay.
Right.
I'm serious.
Well, there you go.
The other explanation was aliens. So anyway, aliens came over.
Vampire bunny.
Yeah.
Aliens love our cows.
Yeah.
They really do. Yeah.
Because they got hungry, so they chopped up a cow. Anyway, we're moving on from that. Now, this one's a little bit more, I can't really say recent, but it is kind of more recent.
Recency biased.
I guess, but I'm talking about from the 1700s now to the 1800s of when this legend started in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, but it came from the old country, as it were.
It came from Cornish miners.
Yeah. Yeah.
It came from the Cornish
when
miners.
Our gold rush happened, of course, that's when it's going to explode.
Yeah. And what we're talking about are the Tommyknockers. The Tommyknockers are small fae creatures, little elves, trolls. Well, not trolls. Not trolls. Trolls are big.
Yeah.
These gnomes.
Not fairies, though, right?
Not really. But they are fae. Okay, fae are
leprechaun-y.
Yeah, more like leprechaun.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about fae, I'm talking about fairies, pixies, leprechauns, elves. That group.
Yeah.
That group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are a lot more other folks out there on the interwebs that know much more about this than I do. Anyway, the Tommyknockers were a legend from the Cornish miners that came into Colorado. And essentially what a Tommyknocker is this little creature, sometimes mischievous, sometimes benevolent, most times not. And they like to cause mischief and cause problems and cause cave-ins and things like that. And you hear the Tommyknockers because you would hear the knocking.
Knock, knock, knock.
in the mine.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, the knocking that you hear is actually rock fracturing.
Yeah.
So, and when you're in a tunnel and you got a long tunnel,
Ding, 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 ding.
It's
Yeah,
not a
that-
sound you want to hear.
and it will echo
Yeah.
Yeah.
all throughout the tunnel. So it gets really scary because it's like, and 9 times out of 10, the knocking that you hear does proceed
Cave in.
a cave
Cave
in.
in. Yeah.
So, because it's rock fracturing. Anyway, that's Tommy Knockers. Now we're going to talk about trolls, the forest trolls. Now we don't actually have forest trolls. These are sculptures that are in Berthoud.
Yeah, like they're not.
Yeah.
Well, and there's one about over near Aspen.
Yeah,
Yes, there's
you're
one near
right.
Aspen. There's one in Berthoud.
Yeah.
There's
They're
one.
like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's one in
Never seen one.
Breckenridge.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. There's one in Breckenridge.
Mhm.
But yeah, these are wooden sculptures of trolls.
Yeah.
And they're, happy trolls, and they're actually they're kind of fun.
Well,
They're
it's like
kinda
a scavenger hunt thing that people do when they go hiking.
Yeah.
We've never done it, but
Yeah, go find the troll.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they move them periodically.
They do.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. 'Cause
Okay.
the one in Breckenridge disappeared and everyone got upset and then
Oh.
it reappeared in a different place.
Okay. Well,
trolls move.
oh my. So now we're going to be moving on from the trolls, and we're going to be talking about a very distinct cryptid for Colorado that I find to be the most ridiculous, most stupid, but doggedly the most talked about cryptid for Colorado. And that's the slide rock bolter.
Okay.
The slide rock bolter is a land whale.
What?
What? Exactly.
Okay, that was the explanation that I was given when I was researching this, is that the slide rock bolter is essentially a land whale. It has no limbs. It does have front flippers. It has a tail with a fluke, but on the fluke has 2 hooks on the end. Wow, there it is. Has hooks on the end of its tail that it uses to grip the top of the ridge of a mountain. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Its method of attack is it will hang on a steep incline facing downward, waiting for tourists to come by. It will release its tail from the ridge, slide down the mountain, eating everything in its path.
Oh my gosh. Called a rock slide, people.
And it's called a rock slide bolter.
I see.
What were you on?
What were they
this-
on?
Come up
This
with
legend,
that.
I don't know, but this legend started in the mid to late 1800s. And
They
it
saw
actually,
an avalanche or a landslide?
it's centered around a town in Colorado called Rico, Colorado. Now, this also ended up being part of a very devastating explosion in Rico, Colorado, because apparently a park ranger decided to set up a mannequin as bait full of dynamite.
Okay.
And the slide rock bolter saw the mannequin, slid down the hill, ate the mannequin. The mannequin blows up and apparently blew up part of the town of Rico. None of that is true. Okay, none of that is true. There was an explosion, yes. That part is true. It was because there was dynamite and blasting caps poorly stored.
Was it like old dynamite?
No, not old,
Just
but it was
bad.
they were just poorly stored. And of course, the inevitability of an explosion. Well, it happened, blew things up, blew up a portion of the town of Rico. And there we are. So anyway, the slide rock bolter, and I'll of course provide photos that I can find of drawings of
Of
these things.
a land whale.
Yeah.
Okay.
And apparently it also drools dramatically.
You know, that's better.
Yeah, but that's what lubricates its way down the mountain.
It's slime layer.
Yes.
It's a sleep drooler, so it slide down the mountain on its spit.
Yep, there we are. There we are.
Wow.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's stick with the Tommy knockers.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy knockers are a lot more
I believe
believable.
those better than I do
Yeah,
the
right?
land whale.
Yeah.
Think something out of that slide rock bolter that's all spittle and slime
Oh,
and flabbily.
ew.
Right.
Somebody must have been
Like milk bread from Japan. All
testing the local flora and probably
Oh.
found something they shouldn't have.
Somebody ate a red cap mushroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's what it is.
Oh,
Somebody ate a
good
red
Lord,
cap.
That's just
Oh,
not
wow.
even.
That's
Yeah.
What, they talked to a 3-year-old?
No.
Got their little 3-year-old brain, the description of something?
Well, you know, when you're
Kid's
on
imagination?
when you're on psilocybin, okay,
That one. That one's just a lot. That's just too much.
That was that was a left hook.
Okay.
Hook. Yeah.
That was
So-
not even
Okay.
good.
now apparently, since everybody has been so enamored with the abominable snowman, oh, you can't call him that anymore. It's the Yeti. Yeah. Anyway,
Freaking Yeti.
everybody apparently needs to have a Yeti, and apparently now in Colorado we have Yetis too.
But
They're Himalayan,
yeah.
and
Him a
welcome to the Himalayas.
We're,
Snow cone?
Oh no, they're lemon.
oh,
Yay!
I just can't even.
Well, you know, we have snow, we have Sasquatch,
And
so
mountains.
you
so
put them
why not-
together, and we have to have Yeti.
and now we have to have Yetis too. We don't have Yetis.
No.
Okay. See, Sasquatch is much more believable.
No.
Yeah,
Well, because we don't have.
because he's ours. He's from North America.
But yeah, not Yeti.
No, not a Yeti.
I
Not a
mean-
Yeti. Anyway, I did mention Sasquatch
He
earlier.
was in Rudolph the
Sorry.
Red-Nosed Reindeer, though.
No,
Okay.
that's the Bumble.
That's the Bumble. And Bumble was supposed to be a Yeti.
Yeah, he was.
So
and
here's
he had
the
a
thing.
toothache.
But I
Are-
no,
yeah, he
but
did.
he's not a Yeti. He's a Bumble.
Here's my thing. Are people putting Yetis and Sasquatch as the same thing?
Sometimes they do.
That's what I think too.
Because
Sometimes they
they're
do.
not.
Thank you. Thank you.
The mythology of them are not, and it has
That's
a lot to
right.
do with region.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that Yetis are not Sasquatch, Sasquatch are not Yetis.
Well, and to bring it even a little bit closer, and you're going to hate this, and I'm very sorry, but it's like calling a gorilla an orangutan a gorilla.
Closer than a Yeti and a Sasquatch.
Well, according to them, they're about like the same way closer.
No.
No.
No, I don't. I
No.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that. Now, we're going to get back into a lot more different legends and stories now, and this is a lot closer to home.
Okay.
This is actually in Denver.
Ah.
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about Denver International Airport. Yeah.
Oh boy.
We're going to be talking about the Masons. We're going to be talking about Illuminati. We're going to be talking about the lizard people.
From
We're going to
the-
be talking about aliens. We're going to be talking about Lucifer.
From the bowels of hell. With his demon red eyes.
I love
I
Lucifer.
love Lucifer.
He just is like, welcome to Denver. Here's a big demon horse with red eyes. Have a great trip.
particularly if you come
In the
in at
background,
night.
you know, death
Yeah.
metal music.
Oh,
Signs and
good
portents.
grief. Like, where is that even a good idea?
I don't know, but I love him.
I love him too. Even
I
at
love
night with his scary red eyes.
Yep.
God, just make them white.
Look at the bones.
Good Lord. You know, oh, come on.
Anyway, now several legends have been flying around Denver International Airport since its construction. Well, a big main reason is because yes, there was a lot of symbology incorporated into the DIA that was Masonic.
Okay.
That was from the Masons. A lot of the square and compass, a lot of the star, a lot of the square and compass and the G and everything.
Navigating, and it's an airport, and you're navigating.
The square and the compass is from construction.
Well, I mean, but you have, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the history of this country, a lot of the Masons did dedicate a lot of structures in this country, and they were the ones that laid the cornerstones and all of that.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah. So
the builders.
That was from that fraternity, a lot of that is still incorporated today. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories flying around about the Masonics and the Masons, and that's a whole separate issue unto an episode unto itself, and I'm not going to get into that. I've got a lot of friends who are Masons, and God bless you, brothers. Love you to death. Anyway, the next one was apparently the Illuminati are involved at DIA, and the reason is because of the tunnels that are under DIA. I'm going to say this right now. The tunnels that are under DIA have no other purpose other than infrastructure.
And to move things about.
Okay? They're there to make life easier for people that work at the airport.
So they're not in the way of the people traveling.
That's right. And it's also to get your luggage from C Concourse all the way back to Jefferson Terminal.
Right. To move, the parts and
at some point before you get there.
That's right. So they don't have to stop planes from taxiing away from terminals just to get you your luggage.
And your luggage stays dry.
That's right.
It stays
mostly.
Well, it's that was the idea.
Far less weather exposure.
Yeah.
That is true.
And it was also to be incorporated into that state-of-the-art automated luggage system that was a complete and utter failure from day one.
Oh, that's another story too.
Yeah,
Tunnels had a purpose. They were not there to.
They have the purpose, and there's no other tunnels other than what they're there for.
Right.
Okay. There are no storage hangars down deep under the bowels of DIA. There are no alien aircraft being hidden. There are no lizard men lounge areas under Jefferson Terminal.
TV show V?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it is warm enough down there for lizard people.
Oh, I could tell you stories. Anyway, I have been in the tunnels.
Just like your Capitol story.
I have been in the tunnels. They are very warm because a lot of the steam, a lot of the heating goes
usually
through
where that stuff is located.
As I said, infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay. These are building engineering infrastructure structures. Okay. There are no other things down there that are doing anything nefarious. There's no new world order down there at all. Okay. It's just tunnels.
The prairie dogs could be taking over.
We don't talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't talk about that. When I was out at the airport and when I was pushing passengers back and forth, they would actually ask me questions about that. And DIA, during this construction phase that they're under, have actually started to take this on and use this to their advantage.
Like play with it?
Yeah, they have posters up of new construction going on. Is it real or is it aliens? They have a picture of one of the lizard men on his phone talking about the lizard man lounge that's going to be built.
It does explain a lot of the delays in construction.
Oh, it does. It certainly does. It certainly does. But my passengers would ask me from time to time about these stories, and I would have to turn around and tell them because a lot of the time it was going to take too long to explain, and I did not have the time. So what I would tell them is, I really can't confirm or deny anything. Otherwise, I will lose my privileges to the Lizard Men Lounge. So I left it at that. So anyway, we're going to close out of DIA with that. And now we're going to be coming even closer to home. And we're going to talk about Riverdale Road.
Riverdale Road, right down the street.
That's right. The most haunted 11 miles of road in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
Yay, Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Now, the funny thing about Riverdale Road, well, it's not really a funny thing. It was when it was first built, it was essentially just a road between Thornton and Brighton. And it still is. Just essentially a road between Thornton and Brighton. And you're not going to let me do this, are you?
She will, but it'll just be challenging.
Yeah.
She's posing challenges.
I see. Okay, sorry about this, folks. I have to wait a minute here because I can't get to my mouse now.
Because there's a cat.
There's a cat
Yeah.
on a mouse.
All kinds of stuff on Riverdale Road.
Yeah.
The one thing with Riverdale is it does twist and turn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it follows the river next to it. Like the river's
Yeah.
pretty
There
close
is
to
that.
it. So
There is that.
it does bode itself to being mysterious, and there's blind corners, and there's
And it's dark, and certain
trees.
kinds of times of the year it can be really foggy.
Well, that and also the incident back in 1975 didn't help matters
Well,
much
that's
at all.
true too.
Okay. There was a mansion that was built on Riverdale Road that was actually constructed about 1870 or so. This mansion had stayed there and stayed intact for quite a long while until about 1970 when it was purchased by a faculty member from CU. He had moved in and was trying to refurbish the place. It ended up with the point where he just really couldn't. He couldn't save it. He was going to try and save it as a historical landmark. Couldn't make a go of it. And then about 1975, a fire broke out, destroyed the mansion in its entirety.
Wow.
Gutted the place and had only maybe about 6 of the exterior walls left up. This is also to say there was also a rumor that his entire family was on the inside of it and died in the fire, which did not happen. That did not happen at all, but he basically lost all of his money off of that. At a certain point on Riverdale Road, there was still the gates to the mansion set up. There's these rusty gates that are on the west side of the road as you're heading north.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The legend goes, if you stop and you go up to the gates and try to open the gates, hellhounds will come and run you away from the gates. They have dubbed this and nicknamed this place now the Gates of Hell. Of course they did, right?
Of course they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that. The other story about Riverdale Road, and I know a little bit more about this because I dated somebody who lived on Riverdale Road for a while. Alyce, you remember Renee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a story about a ghost Camaro with one light, with one headlight.
so bright in
One dead eye.
so bright in Commerce City.
Did I?
If we could give a car to Brighton Commerce City, it would be a
It would be
Camaro
Camaro.
with one light.
with a headlight, one headlight. Yeah.
Let's just personify a vehicle
I-
for our community. That's it. Yay. Go ahead. Sorry, it just that makes me laugh. Okay.
Anyway,
of course it's a Camaro.
Yeah, okay, it's a Camaro. The name of the mansion, sorry, I have to backtrack on this a little bit. The name of the mansion was the Wolpert Mansion. And the Gates of Hell. The Ghost Camaro. Renee used to tell me about this, and she goes, "Oh yeah, there is a Camaro with one headlight, and it belongs to the guy who lives farther up Riverdale Road."
Like, pick a guy who's in
Right?
that region from around
Yeah.
there. Like,
But apparently,
yeah.
this Camaro will come in and start running behind you and run you off the road. And
Okay.
yeah, it's
Again,
there we are.
very typical of the community.
Yeah.
Well, and when Kat was in high school, now it's evolved into a big white pickup truck.
Oh, now
Okay.
it's a pickup truck.
All right.
Okay,
Good for you.
sure.
Way to
Mm-hmm.
Another ghost story about Riverdale Road is, and this always seems to happen, is there's always a lady involved.
Of course.
There's always a ghost woman
Yeah.
somewhere out there gonna haunt you and scare you. And this is
Woman
also
scorned.
yet another woman in white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Who
You
wants
know.
to get into your car?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hook.
Yeah. Oh no, that's another story.
Sorry.
The rusty hook. Yeah. I know what you did last summer.
It was stuck in our window when we got home.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, there's also the ghostly strange fruit.
Haven't heard that one.
Yes, there were bodies hanging from trees.
Ew.
I know.
Like a lynching?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure exactly where that came from or why, but there's stories about that. There's also skinwalkers that are out on Riverdale Road.
Yay.
Because there's skinwalkers everywhere.
Well, and we're regions of Native American tribes that
Oh, yeah.
have people.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
have the
there's-
Wendigos and we have the skinwalkers.
We have
So
that,
yeah, and all shapeshifters are throughout the culture and always talked about.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about the ghost Camaro. Oh, the ghost jogger. Yeah, apparently this is somebody who lost his life on Riverdale Road because he was jogging at night and now continues to jog and he will chase you.
Okay.
I mean,
there
course.
are a lot of accidents along that road.
There
There's a
still
lot-
are.
There still are. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's
Mhm.
windy. There's blind corners. People drive it fast.
Oh yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Guilty.
and
Guilty. Okay. I took Riverdale Road at 75 to 80 miles per hour in a 1973 Dodge Dart.
Excellent.
Okay.
mm,
And honestly, it was fun.
It's fun, but it's just
It
like,
was
you know,
fun.
like it is a road that is traditionally driven poorly.
Oh, always. Always.
And so like,
And it's better at night.
yeah.
Sure. But the thing is there are deer out there.
Yeah.
mhm.
There are coyotes. There's foxes. There's raccoons. And sometimes even elk
Mhm.
are out there.
Mhm.
Okay. These big ungulates, you're going to hear footsteps behind you. 9 times out of 10, it's a deer.
It's,
Yeah, or your own echo.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes. There's not as much echo out there, though, as you might think.
Mm.
I mean,
On a
those
foggy
hills.
night? Yeah.
Those
Oh,
hills
sure.
do cause a lot of the
Wow,
echo,
yeah.
but it's not quite as dramatic as in other places. But
When I stop, it stops.
yeah,
it's like it's following.
it's following
it's
me.
following me.
It's
doing the
following
same
me.
thing
Can't
I'm
get
doing.
away.
Okay. Anyway, that's about all I had as far as ghost stories and spooky things because, there's just too much.
There are so many.
There's just too much.
Hotel Colorado has haunty stories.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. The
Central
Broad-
City Cemetery
Oh, the Lady in
Ooh.
Black.
and the Lady in Black
Lady in Black. is a good
Columbine
one.
lady.
Yeah.
The Columbine lady.
comes twice a
Mhm.
Oh,
year
the Columbine woman. Yeah.
visit.
Glenwood.
to visit her lover.
Mhm.
Yeah. In Glenwood Springs, there's tons of ghost stories. We talked about, like you said, Hotel Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is the Broadmoor apparently is haunted.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of turn of the century folk have haunted the Broadmoor.
Mm-hmm.
Turn of the 19th to the 20th century, not the
Right.
20th to the
20th.
21st. There probably is,
Probably.
but we just haven't seen those yet.
no.
So,
But yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
And
that's
then there are actual ghost towns
Well, and then
that have hauntings.
that too,
as
but
well.
you also get into the whole idea of like all of the old bars and all the old buildings downtown,
sure.
and
Yes.
like they're
Yes.
they're
geez.
inhabited, and there's aberrations that happen all the time. So you have history, you have people who have died in those places.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stories and legends come
Or have
about,
lived
so-
their life in those places,
Right.
and that's where they want to stay.
Stay.
Apparently, yeah,
Well, Soapy Sam apparently still haunts lower downtown.
yeah, that's
Still
true.
haunts Lodo.
There you go.
So and that's another one. We could talk about the legends of downtown.
Well,
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
I mean, there's Denver has its share of some really weird tales.
we're the Wild West for a long time, so
Yeah.
there's some good fun stuff.
Indeed. Yes, I know. I'm not doing very well on keeping things moving like they should, but darn it, I try very hard. And that ends tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. This was Spooky Colorado. Yeah, woo. And we're going to be taking a break.
We are.
We're going to be taking a break for the next almost 4 weeks. The reason is because it's going to take some time to edit everything that we're going to come back with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going on a trip. We're going on a trip. More on that later.
And hopefully we'll come back with some spooky tales from where we're headed too.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah,
'Cause
we'll be
where we're
gone.
headed has a big reputation for being spooky.
That's right. We're going to be gone over Halloween.
And we're going to be there over Halloween.
Yeah.
To make it even more fun.
And Election Day. No, we're coming back election.
Yeah.
Come back on Monday.
Yeah, we'll come back on Monday. All right. Well, thank you very much, folks. We will see you very soon. And with more things, I don't know what's coming next, but we'll see what happens.
Right.